Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a pro wrestler. He is the pro wrestler, podcaster. He is, and has the best damn chokeslam in the fucking business. You can go ahead and, if you refute me, go on YouTube, put that in the Google machine, and you will see for yourself why this guy has the best damn chokeslam around. He is the Hellhound, Jason Hyde. Jason, what's going on, my man?
What's happening? That was probably the best introduction I've had. No disrespect to anybody else that's had me on before, but I think that's took the cake. That was fantastic. I'm a fan of myself now after hearing that. I'm like, yeah, best chokeslam, man.
Hey, you know what? Is that more of your acumen in terms of stepping in between the ropes, or have chokeslams gotten shittier, right? Like, theoretically, you know, Bill Goldberg has the best spear, and Arn Anderson, for my money, has the best spine buster, right?
Ooh.
And it's just the fact that they are the best and some of the originators of such a move, or has everybody that has done the move since then done it absolutely fucking dog shit versions of it?
I think it's like both sides of it, because on one side, the one thing that I was always told, and it's came from like a variety of trainers to even like listen to things with like guys like Paul Heyman and things, like you can do anything as like any move can be a finisher, for example, as long as you do it well and sell it right. But also at the same degree, I think like the chokeslam for so long was just kind of related to the kind of lazy big guy that was just boom, up, down, that was it. Whereas I did kind of want to be like, right, what can I do that's like it's a move everybody knows, but try and do it different. So then I found on the street, we'll just say I found like somebody, and I was like, you, come here. So that's when I tried the kind of over the top, kind of lifty, spinny throw thing.
Yeah.
I thought that's it. I've got the best chokeslam in wrestling. That's me decided.
And you killed the fucking guy. The fucking hapless fellow that has to take this fucking move has to be like the ardent of all like flat back bumps and shit, because the thing looks like you murder somebody. Like, I don't know how you get to the dressing room after doing this move and not have the local authorities come for you, because you look like we just witnessed a fucking murder.
No, see, actually, the gift that goes around of it, there's a kind of strange story behind that. Is that when we were kind of doing the match and stuff, I was speaking to the guy from that gift, and I was like to slam, you don't just go up, like I'm gonna toss you all the way around, like you just need to kind of grin and bear it if you're willing to take it. And he was like, nah, I'll be fine. Then like after I done it, we got back, we were in the back and everything was fine, and then he showed me the video clip and he was like, do you see that? I bounced off the ground. I'm a human and I bounced. And I was like, you agreed. Like I did say it would suck, so like that's not my problem anymore.
Did you get him a beer after for taking that damn thing? And someone gets so well?
Actually, that's the worst part is at the time he was only like 17, so he couldn't drink beer. He was like two weeks or something off of being able to drink beer. So I was like, "Well, I'll buy you some chips, pal. I'm sorry I nearly killed you." That'll do.
I love it. But obviously, you know, to have, you know, such a insight to pro wrestling as, you know, taking a move that is so famous by a litany of other, I mean, literal Hall of Famers. You're talking about Paul White. You're talking about Undertaker and Kane. Like, we're gonna kind of neglect the Hurricane, because I think that's when it jumped the shark. It literally, like, once the Hurricane started doing it, every like 125 pounder, or what, 10 stone.
Yeah, that's my spot.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we can fucking do it too, and I'm like, no.
Obviously, it's good that Hurricane blazed the trail, but I'm just, that's why I'm in wrestling, is to take the chokeslam back for big guys. That's what I'm here for. I need to somehow get a union of big guys at chokeslam underway.
Oh,
although if you think about it, that's like a terrifying faction. just massive guys that do nothing but chokeslam every day, I'm up for it.
Oh my god! Like in my head, right? I just went Big Show, a Great Khali, and Kurgan. That's what went in my head.
Oh, Kurgan had an underrated one for me. I really like Kurgan's chokeslam, man. See, one of the ones, like, obviously, because when you're like coming up with like a kind of trying to come up with your own spin on something, you obviously still need to watch examples and things like that. And weirdly enough, one of the biggest examples that I watched wasn't a chokeslam. It was Bobby Lashley's spinebuster. Like, you know that one where he's like bang, and I just thought that, but a chokeslam looks like the most horrendous chokeslam I could ever think of taking. And like, I don't know, I'm weirdly like, it's a really strange thing to be proud of, but I'm like, no, I'm proud of my chokeslam. It's good. I do other moves too, but like I've been known to do another move or two from time to time, but that's the money maker.
Which, I mean, I love that you brought Bobby Lashley's spinebuster, because it almost reminds me when the first time when he hit the move, it reminded me of a lazy version of, and this is, nobody's ever going to say Bobby Lashley lazy, but I think I just did, right? But a lazy version of Ron Simmons' Dominator, where your Dominator, he would just kind of pick you up almost like a Papa Shango backbreaker and then fucking fling you right back down to the mat and shit like that. But Bobby Lashley, his spinebuster, even more devastating, but it was just like, fuck the flip. We're just going to fucking careen you down at an unsafe speed to the mats.
I think he's probably the best spinebuster of anyone whose last name isn't Anderson. Because like I noticed this, even Carl Anderson, who's not related to the Andersons, is still good at a spinebuster. Like I'm telling you, there's a link there. I feel it.
Oh, you know, it's funny about it. Like, in terms of the genealogy of the Anderson family, I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge. We're not breaking kayfabe here. Jim Cornette is not going to cram down our throats and they're like, hey, you motherfuckers, and what about it? Or whatever, right? No, I mean, I think Gene was the only Anderson, right? And everyone else wasn't. And he wasn't even the best Anderson. Like, most people, even Arn would tell you, hell, it was probably Ole, you know? And he was like, his name is not even Ole or Anderson or whatever. You got Arn over here, Marty Lund, you know, and Lundy. And so I think he's the only one. But like, there was like Lars, Gene, Ole, Arn, and then you had the latter day, the CW Andersons, the Carl Anderson and everything like that, and some offshoots and everything. But those are the I guess the
core of it kind of thing.
Yeah, the commonly accepted Anderson family.
That's one of the classes they teach in wrestling school is the lineage of all that kind of stuff. But no, see, one of the I just done like tonight. I actually just done a seminar like an hour ago with Just Incredible.
Oh no way!
Yeah, so I literally I've not stood up for this desk since that. So like that was one of the Andersons and the Brainbusters specifically. That was one of the kind of groups, because one of the questions that was put to him was just who would you kind of want to watch for a more kind of inclusive, like that anybody can take something from, and that was kind of one of the kind of things that he pushed out, that a lot of it was that anybody can use a lot of the stuff that the Andersons do, and stuff like that. So I really like kind of seeing how like the progression of because wrestling now is so different to back in their time, but it still translates the same. It's like it's basically just like a different thing translated in the same language kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that part kind of intrigues me. Like you Dale and Henry on, like I'm like a grapple geek too, except just like I'm actually geeky about wrestling. I've got a wee like wrestling notebook here and stuff to kind of and I've got the glasses to look smart so that I can take my notes better.
Which and shout out to the grapple geek Dale and Henry, friend of the show. But I gotta, since we're talking about like old school wrestling and kind of geeking out about it, how did wrestling find a young Hellhound, pre-Hellhound Jason Hyde?
The Hell Pup. So I think for me, my dad watched wrestling from I was born in '96, so he watched it just like a few years before then. So like I've been watching it regularly since literally like birth. Like as soon as I got home from the hospital, I was kind of rocking in the chair next to my dad watching it. But my first memories are kind of 99, 2000. Kind of that's like my first kind of loose memories of it when I was about 3 years old, 4 years old, and like my memories of it literally are just kind of seeing some faces, enjoying the kind of moves, the pop. But then I really started properly investing kind of around the first brand split time.
Yeah.
It's big on like SmackDown as well. Like, you know, with like the SmackDown 6 that get drafted over and that, like SmackDown was my show. Sometimes I would watch Raw, but more in like kind of like on Saturdays we would get like a kind of compressed 1 hour kind of highlights.
Yes.
This is all you really need version.
Yes.
So from there it became like just kind of a weird kind of side by side of what I liked in wrestling and kind of how I was in real life. So like for example, like when I was like a proper young, The Rock was just like my guy.
Yeah.
Everything I would like do the people's eyebrow to strangers to try and mean mug them as a 3-year-old and stuff like that. But then I would like after that I kind of started going down the kind of road of kind of like rock music. Grew my hair out. Decided that I was Jeff Hardy after that. And then from there, it's been kind of the more kind of darker, kind of gothic characters to a degree. So kind of like a bit massive on the Undertaker. There was a time where I genuinely believed that Mordecai it was at the time, but after that was Kevin Thorne. I was sold on this guy for like the Scotty 2 Hottie feud. I was like, right, Taker can just go. I've got somebody to fill the creepy ghoul guy, and then. Obviously, that went as it went. So, like, but apparently, to be fair, Mordecai / Kevin Thorne, apparently he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I've actually heard that because my trainer, he wrestled him and was like just talking to him that day. Apparently, he was really nice. But yeah, he kind of made a fool of me because I genuinely thought that I had like kind of pointed out the next big star before it happened. So, thanks for that, Mordecai. Not Kevin Thorne. I'm good with Kevin Thorne. Mordecai specifically, you've let me down.
Yeah. Oh man, and that's you saying that. That's not even Shelly Martinez saying that, but that's another story for another day. I mean, and Clarence Josepha Wanganisanini, my cousin, said, "What's up, Adam? What's up, good cousin?" And literally living in Fiji, not now because of the COVID or whatever. He's stateside, but yes, just love that guy. Love you. That's my big brother there. But okay, speaking of family, right? Your dad's a wrestling fan. What do you remember some of his favorites?
So he was literally from then till now. Mick Foley has been my dad's numero uno. Every iteration from Cactus Jack all the way. He even loves Dude Love, and I know Dude Love's a bit of a more controversial one.
Yes,
but he loves Dude Love and Stone Cold as well. Like I was a big Stone Cold fan as well back in the day. Like I was one of the few that were both Stone Cold and The Rock fans. I hadn't chose a camp, so like a lot of my favourites were just disagreeing with my dad's. So like if he was like he was like all into Stone Cold, I was like, right, well let's make this interesting, Dad. I'll cheer for The Rock. So like that's kind of where it started with him. But yeah, his top one's Mick Foley, 100%. He every time he even hears a mention of him in like the news or that, or if he scrolls by something on like his phone or that, he'll send it to me and just be like, "Look, Mick Foley," and I'm like, "Yep, Mick Foley, Dad, thanks."
Well, it's fun because you, in your own kind of taste, as you got older, got a little bit darker, and you can't tell the story of Taker or Mankind. I mean, Taker or Kane as well as Paul Bear without Mankind. That was, Paul Bear's big, first big charge when he went against the Undertaker and what have you. So it's kind of fun that there's almost like a tale of two stories, in your dad and your own kind of purveying of pro wrestling.
See, I recently actually had a bit of a kind of renaissance of appreciation for Mick Foley because I was watching. So as I said before, we kind of went live. I was watching the first WrestleMania. I was allowed to stay up late to watch, which was Mania 22, and it was Mick Foley and Edge. And like, just kind of harking back to the things that done for Edge. And like, obviously, he was by no means an up-and-comer at that point, but even though he'd had the belt and stuff, I still see that as the thing that put him to that top tier. And even the same way Randy Orton, like his match with Randy Orton, that made Randy as well, as much as I believe any title win and stuff. So like, my dad got it right when I was young. Like, you can't have so many people that we have without Mick Foley. It's strange to think about it if you kind of really boil it down, that he's been so influential for such a against the grain type of guy.
I like it. It's funny because like I didn't realize that. So I kind of grew up with like his WCW run in as Cactus Jack. I saw the Chamber of Horrors match live. And my dad was just like, he was just livid that he paid like, I think it was $20 US in 90 some odd. That was a fucking huge amount of money, right? That was like a week's worth of Blockbuster rentals, like that's, so he was like, because he saw, and I was a kid, I was like maybe 7, right? But I was just like, what do you mean? Like, this is great. Abdullah the Butcher, he just got electrocuted. Evil Abdullah. And it's like, no, kid, like, whatever. And, these are like, you can't even rewind or you have to tape a pay-per-view and whatever. So, yeah, it's what it is.
See, with me, it was actually the opposite. Like, one of the first kind of times that I paid attention to wrestling was that, like, actually, I know you had Billy Strachan on, I actually told the same story on his podcast, but, like, it was, I think I was like 3 or 4, and I was like, right, if I clean my room, do everything you want me to do, please let me stay up to watch a scary movie. But the scary movie was Scary Movie. So they read up, they just seen a comedy horror and thought it'll be fine for children. 5 minutes in, I'm sitting watching Scary Movie with my dad, and it was the Exorcist scene where she's like saying the most profane, fucking horrible shit that can come out of somebody's mouth, her head spinning. And then my dad was like, what is that? He just changed to wrestling. I was totally fine with it because, like, I was still scared of the Exorcist face, even in the comedy version. It's still terrifying.
No, 100%. Oh my gosh, that's that might have been a mortifying or Mordecai of a different ilk. I love it. Now, Jillian Alexiel's so kind, a talented not comic book artist in her right. And she's coming out with the Miss America comic book, which you should check out on her social media pages. So shout out to you. I love your shirt. Oh, thank you. This is actually one of the ones that I wanted to have before like COVID shut down. I wanted to wear it at like shows and doing interviews and whatever. And then it never happened. It never happened.
I was lucky that I ended up like getting some gear cancelled, but I hear so many stories of people that are like, I just got new gear, and then COVID shut the world down. We have nothing left to use the gear on, and I was like, just wrestle in jeans like me, you'll be fine. You've always got jeans. You can always do that. Like, it's smart, and apart from the fact that I look fantastic, of course, but like, it's the like wrestling in jeans has been useful for stuff like that. Like, even though it wasn't a choice, it was just I had a show. Like, we do, I don't know what the kind of American equivalent would be, but like kind of fair days, we call them gala days here, and it's like just like they'll kind of set up like on a random field some like rides and attractions and stuff. I was wrestling at one of them, and at the time I wore tights, which they just looked ridiculous, man. Like, I don't know how nobody told me that I just looked horrendous. But I was wearing these tights, and then I just could not find them anywhere. Pure panic. Found some jeans, ripped them to hell at the knees, and then just got a print out of one of my designer's t-shirt designs he had for me. And that was kind of the story of my new gear. So, like, you can take that for anywhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. And if it fits the character, it's it. And you'll be ready for when we go out again. No, 100%. And thank you for the shout out. Of course, man. It's again, go ahead and check Miss Mexica's comic and all of the fine work of Jillian Alexiel. So there's that. No, it's funny because okay, Haystacks Calhoun, right?
Yeah.
Imagine him wearing tights. It doesn't fucking work, man.
Yeah.
You can't. There's some gimmicks you can't, And again, if you're the Hellhound, right? Like I mean, at some point of the origin story, you actually have to be in hell, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna go with flashy fucking tights.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's like Wyatt family, Bray Wyatt. Like you could imagine like an actual one of those kind of cult leaders, the kind of southern style guys cutting about in like a singlet or that. Like it just wouldn't work. But to be fair, Bray Wyatt is probably one of the kind of not so much an influence in the kind of gear and the look and things like that, but just like I took like some inspiration from him in terms of kind of like pulling certain things off and kind of trying to not so much take the ideas from him, but the way he portrays his ideas so that he can kind of because everything with guys like Bray Wyatt, when he has an idea or he's pushing an idea that's written for him, like 5 seconds into his promo, his match, his whatever it is, you know exactly what he's doing or like what he's trying to push. You get it immediately, and I think stuff like that I think's like very useful for the watching, so to speak. Is just like kind of guys like that, yeah. But I agree with that, and the kind of linking it to the gimmick. I know exactly what you mean.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and it's not fair to say because he's not here to defend himself. But like when Brody Lee went to AEW, I didn't like him in gear. Like I love the character. I love not just the character, but like the person behind it. Like I wanted them to do something with him. And I love like his Mr. Brody Lee character, but the character in tights. Hell, even if it was a take and a shot at Vince McMahon, well, Vince McMahon when he wrestled in black jeans. So, like, it was something, right? But I don't know. But again, Brody Lee. Shout out to Brody Lee.
Oh, definitely. He was one of the. He's fantastic. Was fantastic, and like, see the tights with him is something that they definitely. I'll be honest and say that I wasn't immediately like fantastic. Once I got the gimmick and that, they did certainly grow on me. And especially like at his tribute show, seeing John Silver in the smaller version of his gear, that was really cool, man. But like, Brody Lee's another one. Like, obviously, the whole Wyatt family were a big influence for me, because like at the time they were at their peak was at the time I was getting into training and wrestling and developing a character. So like, any opportunity to give Brody Lee some love, I will absolutely take it. I'm a massive fan of him, and I did a Black Hole Slam for years, and I kind of stopped doing it because I just simply cannot do it as good as he did it. Like I've tried so badly. Like I can, if you want me to do the best Chokeslam in wrestling, absolutely no bother. But if you need the best Black Hole Slam, I think he's your man for it every time.
Yes, and this is somebody, and I love that you brought up that move because, like, in previous incarnations, I forgot what Bossman was calling it, but it was like Bossman's move.
Bossman Slam,
right?
Think it was.
Bossman Slam, yes, Bossman Slam. Then Abyss kind of took it and brought it to prominence and whatever, and then the Black Hole Slam, Brody Lee. It's like, I don't think it's weird. Like, I guess in hindsight, right? And also to, he's not with us anymore to say, but like him and the elbow, that was the most believable fucking shit ever. Like, do that, but I'll never know. And I never drawn a dime worth of shit. So who am I to say?
Yeah, no, I think like I do get where you're coming from. I just think like I think Brody is definitely one where I think he's kind of like if you give him it, he'll make it work.
Yeah,
very similar actually to like Cody. Like when he had the Stardust character, that was not a good character by any stretch of the imagination, but you could still tell that it was not Cody's fault. It was a bad character, if you know what I mean. Like he was absolutely given that. He's like, see, like that. I think Brody was definitely one of those type of guys. So like, I definitely kind of would kind of run with him on anything that kind of. He's one of the better ones to take kind of inspiration of, especially for my end, because like I've been flattered enough to be compared to him. Even I was like, that's sacrilege, but that's kind of like a good kind of pointer that I'm kind of looking in the right direction and things like that.
No, 100%. Which I got to get into the training. So, I mean, your dad, you kind of, I don't know if you had it easier that you had your father essentially like was a wrestling fan, right? That might have been
Yeah.
his dream. Like one day, this little baby is gonna be a wrestler. Like that could, I mean, I felt the same with my son. I named him Owen and whatever, and he's like
Yeah.
into everything but wrestling. So kudos to him, right? But like at what point did you start training and what was the response from your dad?
So for me, like honestly, wrestling was never an aspiration of mine. I was in not by no means full time, but like I was doing relatively well and kind of making relative strides in bands. Like I was in a few bands and doing music stuff. And somebody I was in a band with, we kind of tied up one project and then musically, and then we were just like kind of I've liked wrestling the whole time. He was not so familiar. A few occasions we were just sitting in my house watching wrestling, and then he just became a massive wrestling fan, and he was a fitness freak, so he was like, I want to do that. And I was like, well, you're a quiet guy. If you want to go train, I'll come with you till you get acquainted, and I'll kind of do that. Fast forward 5 years, I still wrestle. He doesn't anymore. Like, so like he kind of he done a run. He debuted, and I think actually he had a tag team title run and things, but now he's into he's like a Muay Thai dude. So he's kind of like planning to go. Obviously after COVID and that, he's kind of planning to go abroad and do Muay Thai camps and stuff. But at the time, it was genuinely just going with him to kind of allow him to kind of have a more comfortable social setting, because he's like, when I say this is a quiet guy, like he is a quiet guy. So like I just ended up loving it, even though at the same time, like it was probably the first thing where like effort was made to, like I don't even know how to word it. Like I liked it, but I had to try to like it, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it was difficult because like my trainer, his name's TJ Rage, and he is. If you ask anybody in Scotland, they'll tell you he's the most underrated guy in Scotland. Like he's fantastic, but he's also like old fashioned as hell. So like we went through like the OG. We were told we learned bumping on the mats because getting in the ring's a privilege and things like that. Like we were old school. So like when I started bumping, it was foam and then a mat on the floor. Like that's how we started. And like I think it's kind of, that was when I was like, right, this is amazing, but can I do this? Because I hobbled home after I got back from the first session, and then the kind of week went on. I kind of learned about things like icing and kind of ice baths and heat pads, things like that. And I just kind of was like, right, if I'm taking care of myself, if I'm kind of making the right strides, then I can absolutely do it. But it was hard to make that move because it's so rough. And at the start, you've not developed a kind of like resiliency almost to bumping and stuff. So like, I've not bumped in a while now because of COVID, but like before, I was kind of more settled and more comfortable. If you ask me to bump, I'll take the bump, I'll be up, and I'll be like kind of crouched over like that for about 10 minutes. But now, like after that, I can just bump a few times. I probably shouldn't, because I'm like one of the bigger guys in Scotland. Like,
Right.
like in Scotland, they kind of like in America, I'd be like I'm like 6'4", 6'5".
Okay.
So like, I'd be like not a small guy, but just a relatively average
Right.
end of the scale. Whereas in Scotland, I'm like the big show. Like there's very few times I see someone on a show that's my size. So I don't need to do stuff like that anyways. But see, as I started kind of learning that, it got easier. But at the start, because you learn the same as everybody else, you learn the bumps. Like it doesn't matter that I'm like this size, this height, or the guy who's training across from me at the same level as me is, you know what I mean, like 5'9" and weighs 120 pounds. We're training the same thing. We're doing the same drills. We're running the same sequences. So like at the start, it was very difficult because I had to basically train like a heavyweight, like a cruiserweight,
Yeah.
like a ref. Anybody that's at my school can ref. They can do like all that stuff. So like we had a very old school kind of hard work orientated start at that school, but at the same time I would never change it because it does give me like a genuine I do feel like I've got such a deeper understanding of wrestling and of what's expected of me because of who trained me. But Jesus fuck, did it hurt at the start, man? Like, good
Yeah.
lord. Oh man, it sucked.
Our good friend and photographer extraordinaire Sandy Smith says, "Hate those mats."
Oh yeah, he
Right?
trained with us. That's actually the photographer as well.
Yes.
But he trains with us, man, and anybody that knows those mats can attest, man. They fucking suck, dude. Like, obviously, I would still, as I said, I wouldn't change it because I get the reasoning for it. But it's a hard sell. It is such a hard sell when somebody shows up and you're like, because like everybody that went to the school tell you, they were like, "Where's the ring?" And then we're like, "You don't get a fucking ring till you earn a fucking ring, bitch." That's what you're gonna. Obviously, in a much nicer tone, but that was the gist of it. Was basically just like the ring's a privilege. That's letting us in the ring at the start is letting just anybody off the street in a ring. But so the match sucked. But yes, I agree with Sandy wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And something you may not agree with, but he's here to say it. Seems like he's forgotten that I'm only 2 inches shorter and 40 pounds heavier than you, good sir. Ooh.
Kick you in the head still, that's fine. Like, you're 2 inches short on me, so I can still kick him in the face. That's the anatomy is on my side. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you've got 40 pounds on me, then fair play. But honestly, like, I look forward to getting like Sandy in the ring because he's one of the guys on the way up, and he is definitely someone I kind of bracket in the same bracket as me, but not the same as me in the way that, like, I don't see anybody else like him on the scene. Like, he's kind of cutting one cloth, and I'm kind of cutting another, but it's not missions away. Yeah, big shout out to Sandy, man. I like Sandy. Sandy's cool.
Sandy's cool, and nice little promo shot that he let us use for the YouTube card for this very podcast. So thank you, Sandy Smith. Love it.
He's awesome, man.
So, so how long were you training before your first match?
So I was a while because I actually had an injury to my neck in training, which weirdly enough was caused by a bulldog. Like the most basic of moves, but somebody basically, like, it was like a guy. I've got no ill will to the guy because he never even debuted. It was just a trainee and he wanted to learn it, and I was the one kind of taking it for him. But basically, he landed with his hand rather than on my head, it was on my neck, and just all his weight landed on the hand because it was what came down first. So like, I kind of landed like this, kind of went flat. So I took a good 5 to 6 months, I think I was out. So I started training in 2015 at kind of April, May time, and I debuted in 2017. But like New Year's, I think it was New Year's Eve. No, the 30th of December 2017 it was. And then I've just been kind of plugging it for there. After that, I went straight to, because like a lot of people at the time were kind of told, like, once you get because we done a thing called the academy we were at, we done an academy attack, which was a friends and family show. They'd have the kind of the trainers wrestling the students, or like the kind of more advanced students wrestling the debutantes, as it were. And that's kind of, so like when I started off at that, I was told, like, usually you'll get this and then the next one will be your next match. Just because when you've had one match, people aren't usually clamoring to use you if you've had one match, especially if there's like not a lot of tape on it and all that. So like, but then I got an offer from I got a message from a guy who run like I was saying, like the Gallaudet shows, and he'd done a few holiday camps and things like that. And I just took basically every single opportunity on a show that was offered to me. I've never in the years that I've wrestling said no to a show. So it's been good to kind of build up the experience in every kind of way I can since then. But yeah, I took slightly longer on the debut front.
Hey, Bulldogs is no joke. I mean, look at, I believe it was like in WCW, a match with Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell. Buff Bagwell jacked up all of his neck.
Yeah.
One of the best Bulldogs in the business, like of all time, is none other than the former Goldust Dustin Rhodes, and he jacked up all of his hand doing it. So it's like simplistic theoretically, but
Bulldogs are the silent killer. That's
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob Van Dam, baseball slide ended like almost 2 years he was out.
Yeah, like a lot of the injuries actually I've seen are for kind of more mundane moves. I think the worst one I've seen, and I feel so bad for like, because like we laugh about it now, but there was this guy, and he's one of my best pals in the world now. But at the time, he was a trainee as well. We kind of started at the same time, and like this dude had just come back he broke his collarbone on a shoulder roll. He broke his collarbone on a shoulder roll. Something went wrong. He came back and he was kind of doing really well, and then one day he went to forearm like the the combat dummy, like the guy, the bust.
Yeah.
So he went to forearm it. He pulls the arm back, and he's like, it's stuck, and he dislocated his arm, like his shoulder. So like it's literally like, see when people like, I get the fake word thrown about when I tell people I'm a wrestler, and I'm like, even if it is fake, man, like you can injure yourself pulling your hand back for a punch.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody's safe.
Man, I hate that the F word, because like the theoretical thing, right? I've seen right before, maybe years before he passed away, what Harley Race, arguably next to Haku, arguably is like the toughest son of a bitch in all of pro wrestling, right? I mean, even the Briscoes, right, who had wrestling pedigree, and hell, even Kurt Angle, when he came in, didn't want to test Harley. It's like and Harley was kind of feeble then, but it's just like that's that. But even them, Harley being in a fucking wheelchair. This is back 2011. Like fuck, man. Like you can't think falling, taking a flat back bump. That is something. Yeah. Fuck running the ropes. My God. How many people have eaten shit running the ropes?
Yeah, like running the ropes is and like, see how when folk are saying like there's two kind of ways to put the effort. To see if somebody says to you, "Oh, that's fake," you're like, don't watch it then. Just fuck off. Like you don't need to. If you don't like it, but at the same time, I'm like, what do you think? Like synchronized swimming is like not planned out before they know what's gonna happen as well. But like, if people ask, like, is it fake? Like, then I'm more than happy to like, not so much expose the business, because I don't protect kayfabe. I don't even know why I'm lying. That was a lie. But like, I'm terrible for it. But like, I'll kind of like be like, it's not like the best way I can put it to people is like, a slam is just gravity. Like a slam is literally just gravity, and you put someone in position for gravity to take effect. So like you can't fake gravity. That's as simple as I can put it to people.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, unless you're Jody Fleisch or Pac, and gravity forgot you.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially Jody Fleisch is amazing, man. He's so underrated, man.
That's what oh my gosh. God, I was just we thought Aisha Raymond. We were fucking just talking about it the other day. Like, fucking Jody Fleisch is arguably. I mean, there was a considerable like bump up in his wrestling style. Not to say that AJ Styles wasn't on the cusp of greatness, whatever. But the matches with Fleisch, holy fucking shit! It'll blow your fucking balls off, man.
I actually love that Aisha's been mentioned as well. Like, she's one of the nicest people I have ever met in wrestling. See, I don't really know her that well too, but she's really good friends with Emily Hayden.
Yes.
And like, I was talking to Emily one time backstage at a Respect Pro Wrestling show it was, and Aisha just come up and spoke to us. She's one of the kindest, most inviting people I've ever met in wrestling. I love her. I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah,
she's amazing. And she's actually coming back on the show. I had her on like damn near 2 hours and whatever, and she's like, "Hey, that was fun." I was like, "Hey, you want to do one of the talked about matches is Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, and the Bellas are inducted in the Hall of Fame. Like, you want to talk about the women stuff happening?" And she's like, "Yeah, so that'll happen Wednesday. So Wednesday before Mania."
I'll be definitely watching that, man. I watch a lot of your stuff. That's why I was proper excited when I got a message from you to come on, because I'd seen I watch interviews, listen to podcasts literally all the time, because my podcast it was in a hiatus for like some kind of personal family stuff back in like the winter time, but now It's just the weekly release has stopped, and it's now just whenever I have time or whenever
Yeah.
I feel like making one new. I kind of put one out, but like, see, like you're talking about like doing like something on the women's, like that's kind of where I've been going with it. Is like we done one recently with Billy Strachan, Kurt Johansson, and the prize fighter Dean Ford.
Yeah.
And that was about TNA, like TNA from the earlier days. I think Billy mentioned it on the show, but it was basically like we done a big thing about that because we had a lot of different kind of perspectives on it. So like for example, Billy was a big TNA guy, and Kurt when that was happening, like they were all in on TNA at the time. Dean has just been continuously, whereas I had a weird introduction to it because like maybe 2000 and I want to say 16, I think, when Drew then Galloway showed up in Impact. I watched it
Yeah.
then, and then I went back. So like
Yes.
it was all the different perspectives and like who liked what and that. So like I quite like going down that route, and that's what we're kind of
Oh,
doing there.
I love it that you guys all have different kind of introductory. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be like too controversial. But you actually like Drew's run and Lashley's run in TNA were actually like the latter days. Like there were still glimmers of hope, but like all the shit before, like the triple threat with Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. Elix
That was
Skipper
just
fucking scaling the
phenomenal.
fucking deal. And there was not some great things. There was the fucking lockdown with like I can't even remember, but I know the Team 3D, the Dudley Boys, and it was supposed to be fucking. I want to say it might have been LAX, but like they had the fucking exploding cage or like electrified cage or whatever, and it just it was a precursor to what
to the AEW one.
Yes. Oh fuck.
That was a thing that happened, man. See, when I seen that as well, I was like, this has to be a fucking rib, man. This cannot be real. Like, Tony Khan has more money than I can conceive, and he can't pay for a bloody lighter and a can of deodorant. That would have been better, man. Like, although I do get that things go wrong in that, but like, that one took me, like, I was howling at that. I just could not control myself.
No, absolutely, you must. And again, no disrespect, right?
Oh, of course.
But the thing about it is, okay, first off, I was just like, I went in waves, right? It was almost like you and your podcast cohorts, 3 different incarnations of like TNA viewing and everything like that. Well, I kind of came into this exploding death match. I knew the match was happening, right? And week to week watching AEW, I didn't have I at a little bit of time purchased YouTube TV until they were like $64.99 a month, and I said fuck all the hell off with the rusty fishing hook, right? But I had that, but I was just like, I don't see Omega and Mox as awesome as they are. I don't see that feud being like that crescendo. Like you would need, look at Onita, look at Hayabusa, look at all of FMW. Those were fucking blood, like they've drawn blood or whatever, right? And then I saw like a promo before it, and I was like, okay, you sold me. Yeah, the fucking, the paradigm shift into the fucking, the table and every, like I was like, okay, I'm in, right? And then for that to happen, and apparently, from what I heard, that it was Omega that was tasked to go ahead and fucking do that thing, right? And now it becomes a point of finger thing. They're like, oh, it worked great in fucking 2 trial runs and shit like that and whatever. But the one time that it didn't work, it was the time that it should have fucking counted. I get that, but I also think like maybe it's the inmates running the asylum that Omega might not have had a lot of oversight. And hell, why should he? He's a damn executive in the fucking company, right? So there's not a lot of checks and balances that go on there. And hell, the last time that we had the inmates running asylum, hey, WCW is still around, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like it's, and I mean, there is so many parallels drawn between. Like I seen a sign that was like it was like TNAC TNA, WCW. It was like a big mix of the logos, and I was like, while I want to give them their fair crack at the whip and like be as non-subjective, open-minded as I can be, like there's so many parallels to draw that it's hard to know just like doom them for day one at certain times. Like I enjoy AEW. Obviously, I don't watch week to week just because I barely have time to like do anything. So like most of my wrestling is like if I hear about a match, I'll watch it. Like today, for example, I did have some spare time. I watched that arcade. Is it the Arcade Anarchy? I think they called it.
Yeah.
I was impressed with that. Like that went, but like that exploding barbed wire match, and especially like I spoke about this at the time. Like Eddie Kingston, man, bless that man and his commitment to that cell. He was like, I don't care that they've not exploded. I am dead here, and that's what we've settled on. Like, if I could commit to ending that well, then my life would be so much better. Do you know what I mean? Like, he deserves all the credit in the world for that. But like, especially when you see, I don't know if you've seen the one with when it happens to Terry Funk, he's in the ring waiting for the countdown to happen, and it's just like, and you just see him going, why?
Right, exactly.
I love it. Oh, I probably shouldn't love it because obviously it's not the best of moments, but so funny, man. It's amazing.
I mean, okay, so there's that, and then you got Hayabusa and the fucking moonsault and whatever. So you kind of, like I'd rather that than have like Hayabusas, which fucking I hate to just shit on AEW, but fucking Chris Jericho at 50 years old, why are you still doing the fucking Asai moonsault when the lion salt? Well, it's the Asai moonsault, right? It's fucking Yoshihiro Asai. That's his fucking moonsault. That's the Ultimate Dragon, whatever. That's his fucking thing. But you're at 50. You had 3, like every fucking organization you've been in, right? WCW, ECW, WWE, New Japan, and AEW. You've botched that fucking move and nearly killed yourself.
Yeah.
Falling on your fucking head and neck.
Yeah,
right?
See, there's like a parallel that can be drawn for that and that like exploding barbed wire match. That see when there's more examples of it going wrong than going right, that's kind of one you don't want to touch. But like see, especially like him bringing in the Judas effect. Obviously, that is also a topic of relative controversy amongst wrestling fans in the way that like people, it's just a back elbow, but like obviously for the start of the episode, we know that I also believe that any move can be a finishing move if it's sold right. So like what I see for him doing that is like obviously if he had stopped doing the lion salt and replaced it with that's him working to his ability, doing literally like one of the day one lessons we get taught is like keep doing what you're good at and don't do what you're not good at, or hide the bad and accentuate the good. If he done that, then that would have clicked instantly. You'd have been like, right, you can't do that. One move out, one move in, sort of thing. And I think if he'd done that, it would have just made so much more sense that he could have then used the Judas effect instead of the lion salt. People would stop giving him the shit of like, you're gonna kill yourself, Chris Jericho. Can you please stop that? But like, I just think I think he's missed a chance to be a lot easier on his body, which obviously it's in great shape because of DDP yoga.
Yeah. Shout out to DDP.
Oh, every opportunity I get for a shout out to DDP, I will get. That's another one of my dad's favourite. Actually, I love DDP. My dad's still here. He still loves DDP. But yeah, I think Jericho's definitely missed the trick keeping the line salt because the replacement of that would have been best for business, as they say.
Yeah.
As they said 5 years ago on WWE TV.
Yes. No, and here's the thing. Honky Tonk Man hasn't taken a bump since like 93, right? And he still pre-COVID was wrestling since 93 considerably. Had a run in WCW as a television champion and whatever, but that motherfucker hasn't taken a bump since 1993. Longer than you, good sir, have been alive, right?
Exactly.
He's drawn money, right? Disco Inferno might not be the most exciting motherfucker to watch, but guess what? He doesn't go, like when he wrestles matches, it's not like, oh fuck, man, I remember him when, right? No,
Yeah.
because he has the same fucking moveset he did in 96, 95, 96, and it was a safe style to work. And he did that
Yeah.
knowing that, hey, what if at 50 people still want to see me and I don't want to fucking kill myself?
Yeah, like I think like there are certain guys that, for example, like Rey Mysterio, you can, if you really look, you can obviously tell that he's coming on a bit, but like the mask to hide the aging, he's in a better physique now than he probably was when he debuted at WWE. He can still go. So like a lot of the time there is guys that can pull it off, but like that is like exactly what you say. Like see if you go to see like one of the ones I seen was Al Snow. I seen Al Snow. I was helmet at a show that him and Victoria were at.
Yeah.
And like, despite obviously, again, you can tell he's got the grey hair, he's got the kind of, he's obviously a bit older. In the ring, he's much the same because it's just working smart and is like as a heel, for example, I work heel most of the time, unless there's like a particularly weird crowd that they're like maybe they'll be into some weird guy like you will kind of stick you in there. But like other than that, I'm pretty much all heel all the time, and like we get like there is such a temptation, for example, for us to do the flashy moves and that. Like
Yeah.
for a long time, like my biggest selling point, even for myself, that like if I was doing like a match to kind of that I knew someone useful was watching or that, I would be doing like the spinning heel kicks, the leg lariats, the any flip that I can do. I would be in doing that, and then like from there, I would be like, nobody cared that I did that because there's a wee guy doing it so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So like then that's where the chokeslam come into play. That chokeslam got a bigger reaction than most of those moves I was doing.
Yeah.
So like I think like there is certain people just don't have a choice. Like Rey Mysterio has Rey in his old age can't just come in and work a brawler style. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, in that way, like guys like him are kind of bookended. But I think there is a way. If everybody wrestles smart and with a bit of good luck, I think there's so much longevity that 99% of people can have.
No, I agree. And that's why, I at the time he was doing it, Chris Masters and the Master Lock Challenge, and shout out to now Chris Adonis, who's the new NWA North American champion. But like, I love that. The same thing with Lashley. That's a fucking simple move that you can do, and it's legit. If you've ever been put on a fight in a full Nelson,
oh yeah, it's no pleasant.
Fucks you up. It's
like,
not good.
Exactly like that's exactly like it's like similar to this is just one of the random nuggets of knowledge I kind of pick out for like my kind of backlog of things I've watched and listened to and stuff. But like Paul Heyman gave a really, really good example. If Mark Henry wanted to finish you with a headlock, he could very easily do that. And if you sold that right, anybody would believe that. Case in point with the Great Khali, just putting his hand on your head, and it just, you can tell he's not even squeezing. But if it's sold right and it's done right, it looks fantastic. And like when he was doing like the claw, I would have wanted to see him make somebody's mouth bleed before I want to see him do like a moonsault. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think people, if they work to their advantages, can be so useful in that sense. And especially like in a time where like I've heard some horror stories about people who they're working shit. Like no disrespect intended to any of the other guys, because I know for a fact that I will be in wrestling as long as my body will allow me. Like if I can still walk, I'll be going through the ropes. Do you know what I mean? So like in that respect, you hear some heartbreaking stories about guys that, for example, have come up in wrestling from particularly young back in the day. They are at an older age now. The way like kind of payment and things is worked in wrestling, things like that, they physically can't afford to stop wrestling. Right. And that is a horror story to me, much like like the movie The Wrestler, see like Randy the Ram. Like that's a thing that happens. Like people will actually just go till they can't, and like I think I've got the utmost respect for people with that mindset, because I do think I do hold that. But I think like people also want to be the kind of like we're in an era right now, especially of gifable wrestling. Like people, like I've genuinely heard people planning a match saying, "I hope this makes a gif," and stuff like that, and I'm like, right, that's all cool and that, but like you're doing a cut off, and there's a chance that in this cut off you fall and land on your head, and that's you goosed. If I'm doing a cut off, I'm raising my leg for a big boot. People have seen a guy my size just like cream somebody, and
Yes.
they're gonna go off their nut for that. So like, although for me, like, as I said at the start of this weird tirade I went on with this, like
No, please.
that was
That's
something
it.
that like that needed drilled into me because I wanted to be the flashy big guy, like Kevin Owens, Keith Lee, Bam Bam Bigelow. That was what I wanted, and then I'm like, firstly, there already is a Kevin Owens, there already is a Keith Lee, there already was a Bam Bam Bigelow. Like, what's the point in being another one of them? And especially to the point where like despite every angle that I was looking at it, it was kind of pointing towards trying to work a more kind of big guy skill, but still getting over the fact that I can do this stuff. So, for example, like if I'm in a match and I'm bigger than somebody, I'm trying to oversell the fact that I'm bigger than them. They get up on me. I hit them with everything that I've possibly thought of. Then break out one of them to show desperation, add to the story, add to the match, buckle it in, and like that. If everything can be done to make sense, and like that again, it was a light bulb moment for me of like a bunch of different kind of people and friends, like guys like Krieger, the now former ICW tag champ, Matt Tyson, Dean Ford. Like we've got like a group chat, like we're all really really tight, and like they're like some of my best pals in the world, and I love them. But they are honest, man. Like they are legitimately so honest, and they're like for example, I'd be sending them matches, they'd be like, "Oh, that's cool, but what the fuck are you doing it for?"
Right.
Stuff like that. So like that, I think. I think it's obviously a bit of me like growing up because like I started wrestling when I was just bless you, just about
Oh,
to
thank
go.
you.
I was just about to go 19, so like I was relatively young, and like so I've kind of matured because like I'm 24 now. The mind of a 19-year-old and the mind of a 25-year-old are two completely different things. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So like back then, I wanted to do the stupid like learning how to do a moonsault before you learn how to do a tie up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, as soon as like you do kind of learn and kind of get these old heads and the knowledge for that and that, you realise that like this, a lot of them will even spin it as like an addiction. Like there's a point where you're like, I just can't, I don't want to stop, whether I can walk or not. Do you know what I mean? So like,
Right.
self-preservation, I think, is a big instinct that's kicking in more in the more recent kind of times in my head. But it's definitely something that's there.
No, 100%. Our good friend Billy Strachan says, "Do you know that Relic is killer spelled backwards?"
Right, so we were asking questions about that TNA podcast that we done. I'd heard rumor and hearsay that this was the case, that Relic is killer spelled backwards. I've ran it through a multitude of computer systems. I've analysed it. I can't find any sources on the matter, but I'm dyslexic, so I don't fucking know. I don't know.
So you might be seeing Relic anyway.
I thought his name was Killer the whole time. Like, that was,
wow. That's
so, like,
fun. Well, I mean, then what is Red Rum?
Red Rum is, I don't know, I'm colourblind as well, so it's just rum to me. I'm just bad at everything. I'm bad at seeing things and understanding them. I didn't read the standing order.
Oh, that's true. I mean, it's tremendous. But again, that's what has brought you here to the dance, which I got to ask, right? So after training for the multitude of years, like where was your first match and how was that?
My first match took me by surprise, actually, because it was supposed to be, so I knew the match was happening, and we originally, the whole thing, there was a story that kicked off all this thing, is that we lovingly came to know the show that I debuted on as Academy Attack, Mum Said No, because there was 8 people in my match. I was in an 8-man tag match. 4 of those were also like 4 people on the the face team, I think, or
Yes.
2 people in the face team and 2 people in the heel team were pretty young, man, like just upstarts, because that school in particular, like you could start training from the age of 12, so there was like 14-year-olds
Whoa.
debuting and stuff, you know. And this was, like, as I said, it was the day before New Year's Eve, and it was in
Oof.
Scotland, so like the snow was as you would imagine the snow would be. So like basically maybe an hour before doors opened, the promoter gets this message basically like for the other half of my match being like, hey, sorry, can't debut tonight. Mum said no, the roads are too bad with the snow. So I ended up being in there with the 4 people that were remaining in my match. That match then just get made a tag match. So we had to kind of fill up double the time with a different match that was planned. So like that was absolutely horrifying. Luckily, as I mentioned, I just mentioned Krieger there. He was my tag team partner for this match. And then we had a well-known Scottish guy called Lucha DS on the other team. So like I was in good hands, and everything went very much without a hitch. Apart from it, I did get somebody fed something back to me once after that match. They were like, all the moves and all the wrestling was fine, but stop doing that weird noise that you keep doing. And it racked my brain for ages. I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. So I asked people what they thought he meant. They were, just go ask him. So I was like, listen, what do you mean by that voice, that noise? He was like, it's just your voice. Just your voice annoys me. And I was like, all right, okay. But I get it, because like my voice doesn't suit how I look. Like, I'm this big guy with the voice of like a prepubescent girl, but it happens. But like that happens, I'm used to that. But other than that, the first match went really well. I done a not the best chokeslam in the world. I just done your bog standard uppy downy chokeslam, and the guy sandbagged me to shit. So like it looked horrendous.
Right.
And then see, like it was even that was a learning experience, because like I get told that the thing people remember are the last thing they see.
Right.
The last thing people seen was me getting kicked in the balls and squealing like a girl. So like, and like even before it, Krieger was like that to me. He was like, just scream like a bitch and then fall down like a big tree. And I was like, yes, I will do that.
Yes, sir.
For you. I will happily scream like a bitch and fall down like a big tree. That'll do.
And all the fears that you had going into it. That's. I mean, talk about a tenured young veteran, right?
I was put in at the deep end, man. A match that got booked 10 minutes before it went on, a ball boot, and a squeaky bitch girl voice. I made it work, I hope. I'm still wrestling, so I think I made it work.
Right, I think you got over.
Yeah, it seemed to, at least, I hope.
See? Man, I mean, again, theoretically, right, if the snow hadn't have fallen, right, and the 2 guys' moms going like, no, we're not, the fucking snow, you guys are not doing that tonight. Like, when was your original debut supposed to be?
It was still that night. It was still, so like, it was on the same night, but as I said, like, when I say like it was just before the match, like the doors had opened and people were literally coming in, and these people were like, we can't be there tonight, so like we had to get our match moved about and stuff. It was still that night though, so like it was, and like the way we had 2 training schools at the time under one banner. The way that we worked, because the owner of the company who ultimately made the decision as to whether you got booked on that show was at the other training school to the one that I was at. So what we would do is our trainer we started making some progress with training, kind of getting better. He would then send us down to the other trainer for something of like a kind of tryout match. They would kind of give you feedback, and they'd say like things to you like, right, everything's there, you're perfectly experienced to be on this card. Do you think that you could work on this in time to be on the card? Things like that. Okay. So like, and the way, like, I don't drink anymore at all. Like, I'm totally like kind of teetotal and stuff. Not the case at the time. So like the day before my tryout was the Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. the Saturday night at, I think, like 8, I had been up the Friday and I had been out and I was so ill. I slept through to like the Saturday night at like 8 o'clock at night or something. Woke up, bunch of my friends texted me. They were like, "Listen, your mum and dad on holiday. We are coming to your house." And I was like, "Cool, okay, but I've got this tryout. I need to keep a lid on it. But you can come over. That's absolutely fine." Cut a long story short, I was still awake. I was not drunk, to be fair. Like, I did manage to kind of. I stayed off the drink and all that so that I was at least safe to wrestle somebody. But I was going off for like maybe, if I'm lucky, 2 hours sleep plus the 45 minutes sleep in the car to get there. 2 hours sleep, and at the start of the tryout match, I'd hit like a sidewalk slam. The way the person landed, they didn't flatten both their legs, so their knee was up. I come down, and their knee just comes right into there, so I didn't know what way was up. Luckily, this guy managed to get me through the rest of the match, and after it was like, "Are you alright?" And I'm like, "Are you stone cold?" Like something like I was just gone. And then I managed to get on the show, and for there it picked up really quickly, because after my first match, as I was kind of saying at the start, we were usually told, right, more than likely your next opportunity will be the next trainee show that's on. But then I managed to get some work with a company they're now kind of, they've gone under, they've closed their doors, but they were like relatively close to where I say relatively close to where, about an hour drive for where I live. But for a time that was like really regular kind of, it was like clockwork. We trained on a Sunday, their shows were on a Sunday, so we would leave training maybe like an hour earlier. We would make our way, we'd get a car together, save a bit of petrol. We'd make our way to the shows, help them build the ring and stuff like that. So for like a decent while, from when I debuted to my second kind of student match or whatever you want to call it, like I was getting semi-regular work. So like I was given a good chance to kind of thrive and learn there. And then from then, the kind of gala days and the summer fete shows and all that, they popped up. So like from there, I managed to then further get a bit more work. And yeah, it just kind of, it did. I've managed to, since I debuted, keep relatively regular work, considering the kind of point I'm at in my career. I've been really happy with the amount of stuff I've been able to do. And like one thing I hate as well, I'm like such a bitch for like, see people that haven't debuted but have merch. So like I had a guy, and like I'm still partnered with him now. So like after I had a few matches, for a while before it, he was like, "Look, I'm a graphic designer," and like, because we were friends before, like just internet friends. I've been pals with him for about 7 years. I have never once met him in my life. And like, so he messaged me a few times back and forth, basically being like, your look's really cool. Can I just do some kind of mock-up designs with it, just to kind of practice and things like that? And I was like, absolutely, like, you can practice with it all you want. He made like this absolutely killer design. I pure love it. And but at the time, it was like, look, we need to release this. I'll release it. You're not releasing merch. It's just me in partnership, like a Jason Hyde, like a collab sort of thing. And I was like, I'm more than fine with that. I can live with that. The thing, like, the next show I was at was like a kind of hometown one for me.
Yeah.
The whole place is wearing this T-shirt. Like, literally, a lot of them were my family, to be fair. So, like, but like, this whole place was like, everybody was stopping me being like, everybody's wearing your T-shirt. And I'm like, I know, I'm terrified. To the point where there was a guy's entrance music went off, but the entrance area was the same place that the fans' bathrooms were. So this guy's entrance music played, and my dad just walked out of the entrance from going to the bathroom with my T-shirt on. Everybody thought he was Jason Hyde for a start. That was a bit strange.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so like, I think I've been able to kind of keep enough interest and kind of keep enough eyes on me that I've been able to not fade into obscurity as of yet. Or maybe I'm just feeling myself and haven't faded out of obscurity yet. But either way, like, I'm at least still enjoying it, and like I'm still happy with how things are going. And I think like from like kind of where it started, that I've kind of grown to the point out of the ring, like personally, where now's probably the best time to kind of go foot to the gas and kind of advance to the next stage kind of thing is the immediate plan.
No, I love it. I love it. Which I gotta ask, right? Like COVID is just all weird. So, what were you planning in terms of 2020 in your wrestling career? Like, how did you envision that going?
So the tail end of 2019 was like I was just ridiculously busy compared to how I'd been before because I was doing shows for guys like there's a company in Scotland called W3L and I was getting work here and there with them.
Yeah.
And then the friend that I was talking about that I started training with, he had a kind of regular spot at Respect Pro Wrestling. They messaged me and they asked if I could do one show. But then before that show was happening, but after they messaged me about it, they went, "Oh, somebody's pulled out of this show. Can you maybe fill that spot?" And I'm more than happy.
Yeah.
And then that just kept popping up as it like when you join here. So like Respect helped me out with a lot of work. And then towards that further, there's a company called Pro Wrestling Innovation and Pro Wrestling Scotland. They're run by two of the people that trained me separately. So they had kind of really regular shows to the point where it was like weekly, like one week the next for it. And PWS Pro Wrestling Scotland in particular, they run my hometown, and like that was. They used me a lot in like the promotion of it. Like I done like a newspaper interview and things like that. So like that was like the kind of first time something like that had been put on my shoulders, and it was fantastic. Like I really enjoyed that kind of being able to like, add to it. And then now from where we're going, like that was like late 2019. When we got to 2020, I got a shoulder injury, so it was like just a rotator cuff thing. It was a 6-week thing. It was relatively fine, just kind of irritating to move. It's still kind of sore now and cracks, but it's fine now. So I had to take 6 weeks out at the start of 2020 just to get some kind of rehab done on that. I come back for one match, which was the Pro Wrestling Scotland Rumble, which was actually coincidentally the one show that I done in 2020 because after that COVID smacked like a shovel to the jaw.
Yeah.
And it was like the only time my girlfriend has seen me wrestle was the only time that I actually wrestled since there was one chance for her to see me and she got it. I also got the most eliminations in that Rumble, but nobody talks about that enough. Thank you. Most people should applaud that.
I think so. That's a big deal.
But yeah, for there, like it just kind of for me because obviously I was aware before COVID and lockdown started, like. We were all aware that COVID was a thing, there was a virus, and it could potentially lead to some big changes. Right. But I just think nobody really went, nah, they'll shut the world down, wrestling's going to stop. Like, I'm going to be working at a home office. Like, so, like, I was never really preparing for that, even up to the very end of it. I was like, so it genuinely hurt me like a freight train. Like, I had so much plans, and I'd spoken to promoters, spoken to people. Plans outside of it too, like plans to do some kind of content creation work, video work and things like that, which got put on hold. But on the plus side of it is that leading into kind of the end of part of this year, I've been able to like get in contact. There's a new company started in Scotland called Pro 2 Championship Wrestling, run by Logan Storm. He was at one of the shows that I mentioned earlier that I did for Respect, one of the ones where like, there's a spot in the show, can you come fill it? And Respect at the time, they put me in kind of a random thrown together tag team with a guy called Big Benny. Big Benny's smaller than me, but we don't question it. So I'm not Big Jason. He's just Big Benny. We are in a tag team now full time because of that kind of booking. Like that's kind of brought us a lot of attention as well. So like. The two of us are all in on the tag team. We've got so many good ideas that I personally, I'm really excited to run with that tag team because tag wrestling from like the kind of age of maybe kind of 8, roughly see when Eddie and Ray were the tag champions and that kind of era. From there onwards, I just had this love of tag team wrestling. So like the opportunity to get in a tag team. Like that was really good, but he was the promoter of Pro 2 was at the shows that we had been put together in. So he had contacted us both separately, and basically just like signed us up and being like, yeah, we'll have you on the roster. And then it was Logan's idea to kind of publicly put out, be like, we'll run us together as a tag team. So we messaged them and we were like, look, we have been considering it for a bit anyway. Can we like maybe brainstorm some names, some ideas, some this and that? And then that's where the silence. Oh yeah, of course. I love a bit of money, me. I do. I love money. Like that's. But then that's kind of the story of how the silence happened. That's the tag team. Was we just took that idea and basically like, obviously it sounds like kind of goody two shoes market as hell, but we were both like, right, like I'm willing to genuinely commit to this team. He would like, for example, Benny was talking about making car playlists for long road journeys, everything. Like we've just put so much thought into it, and like as I was mentioning the big wrestling books, there is so many pages of ideas for that and this, so that's what I'm looking forward to in particular. Aside from that, like also working back again with respect, Pro 2, literally, as I said, I say it in every kind of opportunity, I just want to wrestle anyone, anywhere. I'm not too, like, I've never turned a show down just because I've never been too busy for it, but like I'll wrestle anybody, anywhere. That's my goals looking forward. Looking forward is to just build as big of a body of work, kind of get as much of it recorded, get as much of it marketable, make as like treat wrestling as more of a business than a hobby, sort of thing. Because there was and like, despite obviously saying that, like I've said in every single podcast that I've ever been on, every interview I've ever done, like I've never ever been like, I want to be a WWE superstar. I don't give a fuck if I ever became it. Like that would be lovely. That would be fantastic if that was to work out. But genuinely, like I'm so like, especially because there was a time at the start of lockdown, obviously like speaking out happened and stuff, and I just didn't care for wrestling at all. Like I was just like, this just draws nothing but negative emotion out of me. So there's no point in like, as I'm pretty sure any wrestler went through the kind of thought process at the time. I was like, this just saddens me at this point, you know. But then like, I think I've definitely kind of fell back in love with it more recently, kind of getting lumped with Benny, and can I just give myself the motivation to kind of study again and like be able to like, because I would even sometimes find myself being like, right, you're a wrestler, you like wrestling, put wrestling on and watch it and enjoy it. And I was like, why am I forcing myself to watch tours of wrestling that I just don't want to watch? But then when the opportunity came up of kind of being like, I can go back to watching it and analysing it and really doing like what I enjoy about it, because like, I'm a proper like, I'm like, I just in general like a geek. Like I was a proper science nerd in the school, so like the small minute parts and like really analysing matches and try to figure out in my head like, they done this after this, why did like I felt like that worked, what made me feel like that worked in this match, what can I take from, like a big thing like Justin Credible said tonight at the seminar I was doing, which was something that I actually already kind of did take from, is like, what can I take from people that isn't taking their shit? Like, because like you can take things from Shawn Michaels without hitting a single Shawn Michaels move. You can take aspects from so many people and make things your own without ripping off a single thing from anybody. And like, that's kind of been a big thing. And obviously growing as a wrestler, it's as much wrestling as it is character. I've been kind of like just over-analysing everything, every bit of media that I intake. I'm like, how can I work that into me as a wrestler? Like if you see my Twitter, you'll know like I'm like a massive geeky nerd for Doctor Who. I just love Doctor Who, and like I'm like you know, they like, I'm basically the comic book guy from The Simpsons. I kind of look like him actually now that we think about it, but like I'm basically like him when it comes to Doctor Who. I can tell you all the stupid, annoying facts. There's this, and like in that show, there's a race aliens. When they die, they regenerate. They get a new body of the same person. Blah blah blah. There's this like bad guy from that race, and I'm just obsessed with him, like, and how I can incorporate this into my character without ripping him off. And like, I just love the kind of, it's given me this kind of weird appreciation for everything that I do. Like literally every single thing that I'm kind of watching, reading, listening to, I'm trying to incorporate it into myself that I like. So like Star Wars as well, massive Star Wars fan, and I'm looking at guys like Kylo Ren for wrestling influence. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing that for? Why am I looking at Ben Solo to be a good wrestler? But like
Why
that's
not?
exactly, and like as I said, like especially with the Doctor Who thing, there's like, to explain it to somebody that doesn't know anything about it, there is different actors playing the same character, and it's like the same person, different but still mental and evil as this
Yes.
character. And like I really like the kind of parting it back to wrestling. It's very much like Jake the Snake Roberts in the way that there's like an intensity. Hello, dog.
Yeah, I know. He just started barking at
Don't
somebody.
worry, I will never complain about a dog bark. I'm a pure
No
dog bark
worries.
as well. But basically, yeah, just everything's kind of given me a love of wrestling's gave me a love of everything again. And I've basically been taking a lot like relating that to like Jake the Snake Roberts with his kind of quiet but intense nature.
Yes.
Like he was cutting the most poignant promos of his time, and he did very rarely shouted. Like
Yes.
that, the kind of eeriness to it and that. I'm just trying to take that for every kind of facet of life that I can grab it from, and I've really enjoyed that aspect of kind of the new kind of life it's kind of injected into me, especially just being away from it so long now. I was like, right, I'm ready. We've had me and wrestling. We were on a break, and now we're fine. We've made up. We've kissed and made up, so we're all good.
Hearts, just hearts.
Exactly.
Which I gotta ask, right? With this newfound kind of appreciation for wrestling, the newfound tag team, this newfound seminar with Just Incredible, right? So if I were to ask the Hellhound, Jason Hyde, if you could book your favorite match, right? You against somebody, past, present, or future, I want to know who that person will be, what era that is in, and what venue that is in. Because obviously, Tokyo Dome in the 90s is different than present day Tokyo Dome, right? Same concept, whatever. So, and you can do it as a single or a tag team or both. Take it away, my man.
Right, okay. So my marquee answer is just going to be me and if it's a tag team match, I'd love to wrestle the Hardys. Like that's the go-to, or the Dudleys, or to be fair, any of this TLC teams, because that's like my TLC is where I started my kind of specific like holy shit wrestling's cool.
Yeah,
like, TLC was a big one for me as well. So like any of those guys, singles. Weirdly enough, right? So like I have been told so many times that I wrestle in the wrong generation, and that if I was around in like WCCW era, I would be the biggest star in history. So like there was this I forgot his name. There's this guy that wrestled with a flight cap on and like pajama Bugsy McGraw, I think it was. His name was.
Might have been, yeah.
He's just this madcap guy, and I just think I'd love to wrestle him. So
it was the guy that trained Keith Lee. It's
yes,
fucking not shit.
The flight cap, the flight captain is the only thing. The reason I'd actually discovered him as well is that so him, I would love to wrestle him. He's just somebody, me and Krieger. It was the day after. I think it was the day after WrestleMania actually. And we basically were just because it's on till like 4 a.m. in the UK. Yeah. We stayed up at his bit. I crashed on his couch. The next day we just sat, eating junk food and watching old WCCW, and the two of us just fell in love with Bugsy McGraw. So probably him is the weird one that I'd like to wrestle for that era. But in terms of now, weirdly, like I don't know why, but like hardcore wrestling is just like calling to me in my head. Is that I really want to like try it. So like the now Jimmy Lloyd, I think his name is CZW guy. He's just like, this guy's mental. Like this guy is looked at, like you look at him and you just see random and like local, like regional indie guy, and then you're like, this guy should be dead 5 times over. So like I think recently I would love to wrestle Jimmy Lloyd as well, man. That would be a really cool match. And then there's been one in Scotland as well that so many people say they want to see, which is me and a guy called Caleb Valhalla. I've been told a few times people want to see that match, so I'd quite like to do that. Because any big massive guy, I'm just like, do you know what? I want to kill him. That's why I beat them up. It's a weird tick in the brain. I'm just like, if somebody's bigger than me, I'm just like, I bet you I could kill them. Bet you.
And okay, so in what venue and what era do these matches take place?
So I'll take Bugsy in his era because he deserves that. He's probably old now. To be honest, the Hardys, I think the Hardys were so ahead of their time. So like nowadays, they like young Hardys today. If the Hardys were young today, I genuinely believe the Young Bucks would not be a thing.
Yes,
like
100%.
you know what I mean? Like that's because like I still, and absolutely no disrespect, I will acknowledge the Young Bucks are one of the absolute best tag teams to ever live. But like I just think that no tag team of that ilk, if you will, can touch early Hardys. Like nobody, and that's coming from someone in a tag team. Like you just can't. There's a reason that Jeff Hardy became one of the kind of first guys to outsell John Cena and merch. Him and Punk is like they just had the most it factor. So I'd say them nowadays, and probably them all nowadays actually, because like I don't know actually, because see, I'm like I believe crowds make matches, but like I'm a fan of an old fashioned wrestling fan, so like I like the plant grannies that hit you with their purse and like the fans to boo the heels and cheer the faces.
Yes.
Like, I hate this whole look, I'm cool, I'm cheering a bad guy. Nice, you're a virgin, well done. Like I don't know what you want. Like I don't know where the street credit is in this. So like I would say probably all of them actually in a kind of bygone era where fans were fans and fans weren't like the only critics.
Yeah.
Like it's a very weird era we live in right now where like it's the same with anything. Like yeah, like with anything I'm a fan of, fans hate the thing that they're a fan of. Like every wrestling page you see is just people talking about what they want to shit all over and what's bad and why like people are like, oh, if you like WWE, you can't like AEW or vice versa. And I'm like, you never go at this shit. People like obviously it's marketed as a very different story, but like back in the day, like, it wasn't a case of you would watch like the territories were because that was the only thing you had access to with the TV and things. Like nobody really cared back in the day if you watched WWE or WCW. Nobody really gave a fuck. Or like even later on, like see like the kind of 2009 era, no one gave a shit if you were TNA or WWE. Most people were both. I know that I was pretty much like WWE because I didn't have access to TNA, but for some reason this modern, very internet-driven era of wrestling fan is just like, if you don't agree with me, balls to you, sir. So like, that being the case, and no disrespect to fans, because obviously I love them, they're fantastic, but I just don't get the negativity these days. So I'd probably like to wrestle in front of an older crowd, or like even here, like in the UK. We have a very, like, wrestling at one point was an institution in the UK with the world of sport. Yeah. So, like, see here, family shows are the bread and butter of wrestling here. Like, honestly, apart from ICW, I could maybe name... Do you know what? I don't think I could name any other promotions whose main thing is kind of towards an older crowd. Over here, the family style wrestling is still like back in the day. Like they cheer the faces, they boo the heels. The grands are mental. The grandparents are mad. So like I still get to experience that. So I think as well going back to the older crowd would kind of harken back to the crowd I wrestle for now. But at the same time, like I really want to wrestle for an American crowd because you lot are, if you like something, it's like your personality. Yeah. And I really would love to be in that much of a kind of impassioned crowd, because at the same time, like a lot of the times in the shows that I'm at, people like there's two mindsets. There's mindset A of like a good wee day at the wrestling. Like you'll enjoy it. You take the family, buy a couple of lucha masks and some hot dogs, and slap a good one on that bitch. But like, I think the opposite end of it is there's so many people, and again, this like Lou King Sharp has said this in a few different occasions, is that like a lot of the time people are there to go, this isn't WWE, so the first thing casual crowds want to do is shit on you. Like that's often the case, but like for the most part, it is the kind of cookie cutter crowds here. So like I really enjoy that. So I think the older generations are suited to me.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I throw back to a bygone era. I
Yeah.
think you are, which obviously there have been a lot of people who have helped you both professionally and personally throughout your career in life. So, Jason Hyde, let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Right, so we'll give a shout out to TJ Rage for training me, but also because TJ Rage has the best stories about wrestlers. So like this is the famous one, is that he met Bret Hart at a urinal and told him that he liked his book. Let me not bury him here, but like it wasn't like they weren't both standing there holding the hoses, being like, "Hello, Bret Hart, wrestler, I liked your book." Like it was like after it was like, right, I'll let him pee. When we're washing our hands, I'll slip it in the conversation. So like guys like him and Krieger and Emily Hayden, even like back in the day, she was very useful at the start of my wrestling career for the direction that wrestling's went in, because a big controversial topic then was intergender wrestling. Whereas when I was coming up, especially because like for like there would be some other girls that would come to the class maybe periodically. Emily Hayden was the one that was there every single session. So like being that most of the time she had no other girls to wrestle with anyway, like intergender wrestling was not a thing. It was you were wrestling who you were wrestling. And like day one of training, like she was like, if you hit me any less hard because I'm a girl, I will make sure you regret it. And I was like, understood, bitch. like no, but like so like see for that, and like she's been really good. She's been a good pal, especially in like I know that she's one of the ones that puts good words in for me in places and that. As do they all. So like honestly, I just love everybody. I just love everybody, man. I'm an overlay. I've done like at the start of my wrestling journey, if you were asking me this, I'd be like, fuck everyone. They're all kind like they're all kind of arseholes, and I don't want to speak about them. But no, like I just like everybody now, man. Like I'm just chill with everybody. I don't have any big beefs in wrestling, and that's like my favourite part of it now as well. So like honestly, just if I want to shout MD, it's generally just Scottish wrestling. Like it's slept on to such a degree, and it's very sad to witness. So I think everybody should just get in on Scottish wrestling because it's world class.
I love it. I love how you did that. Right, you were talking about world class championship wrestling, WCCW, and Scottish wrestling is world class. But I agree with you, sir. Like Scottish wrestling, I might have been one of the ones that were sleeping on it, but just having some of you guys and gals on. And I hope to have a lot of you. And shout out to SWN, Scottish Wrestling Network, for turning me on to a lot of you guys and girls. Man. Like they're just tremendous. So yeah, man, shout out to Scottish Wrestling, which in recent years it hasn't been bad. Nikki Cross, Drew McIntyre,
yeah, especially Drew. Like especially like there's a thing. So like now like the tennis player Andy Murray. Drew has been given the treatment of Andy Murray, where when Andy Murray loses, he's Scottish, but when he wins, he's British. So like Drew's been getting that thing. I'm like, no, Drew is Scottish, but now whenever you hear about him, it's just Scottish wrestler. So I'm like, right, that'll do. Let's see how we take it from here. But yeah, British wrestling is good as well, but like. I genuinely believe that there is as much a contrast in Scotland and England as there is to England and America. Like it's that apart, and like not to say one's better than the other, but it'll fit. If you like wrestling, but you think what you see around you maybe isn't for you, take a dip in like there's so many untapped markets, especially like I've done I've been doing the seminars like the one tonight with a guy called Lou King Sharp. He's a guy in the Scottish wrestling scene, probably among the best travelled. Like, that guy is the most dedicated. He will ask anybody if he can wrestle for them. He doesn't care. He will ask anybody, and I respect that so much about him, man. But like, he is a big guy on like emerging markets. He went over to oh no, I forgot his name. OWE in China. It was the guy from AEW at the time. I forgot his name. But the guy from is it the Lonely Hearts or something?
Which one? The QT Marshall?
No. It was one of the Japanese dudes. Strong Hearts. Is it Strong Hearts?
Yeah, the one that does the thong gimmick, right?
Oh, yeah, it was one of them, but it wasn't. It'll come to me eventually, like when I'm in the shower later on or something. But that was.
That's where the thinking gets happening in the shitter.
But like in that, like he's big in a lot of emerging markets. So like he's wrestled in places like Scandinavia, China, like Finland. He's massive. Like when I say he's big in Denmark, like it's such a because he has like. He's in Scotland. He's just the most regular guy. He's 5'4", and he's just the most regular looking guy you'll ever see. But he is like an actual big deal in Scandinavia, and it's just such a weird thing to think about, especially because like he's been about since he's genuinely been wrestling since he was 12, and he's now like 22. So like he's a 22-year-old with 10 years of experience. He's an actual veteran at 22. Like, honestly, if you're looking for somebody to go on, he is a fantastic guest and stuff like this because he's got so much knowledge he's accrued. But, like, he is a big guy on emerging markets. So, like, if you're missing a gap in wrestling, Scottish wrestling could very well fill that gap. Or Scandinavian, or Chinese. I watched some of the guys. Finland, exactly. Like, because he's got a thing called the LKS Dojo brackets of excellence, which is where he does these like webinars, seminars. He said people like he had Krieger on, he done one himself. A guy that wrestles in kind of Asia called Buffer. He was really good. Selena De La Renta from MLW tonight, just incredible. Next one we have is Bill James, formerly Bill Dempsey.
Oh wow!
So Hector Guerrero. He's got Hector Guerrero, so like now we've got so much stuff like that coming. Like he's just the most. He's been setting all that up, so he gets a shout out as well, man. He's been kind of keeping the spark alive, as they say, over the COVID things. But so I would say emerging markets are something everybody should look into as well, but mostly Scotland.
Hell yeah, I love it, and that's what I want to tap into. Just like everywhere, obviously, but. Obviously, for everybody that wants to see what you're doing everywhere, obviously pre-COVID, but even still, and once COVID dissipates, hopefully, right? Where can they find the Hellhound, Jason Hyde, on social media?
On Twitter, I've put it here. Oh, I've always wanted to do this. I get to point at the side like mania. Yeah, I've put it here. So it's this on Twitter. And then Facebook is facebook.com/also this. Oh, I'm never going to stop doing that. I feel so powerful.
Yes, I know also this power.
Yeah, so this. That's where you can find me. And if you want to follow me on like any of my social media, don't expect intelligent posts. You can expect me tweeting celebrities and asking them weird questions or discussing how much I love Doctor Who. That's pretty much it. Or sharing some of the good folks stuff, because there's so many. Like, there's a weird kind of influx in talent right now because there was a few new schools opened up in Scotland.
Yeah.
Just before there was a massive influx in people on the precipice of debuting before COVID happened, and that put a stop to that. These people have basically been told, go and get your name out there so that your name's out there when COVID comes back. Do you know what I mean? You've got guys like Ryan Richards, Fletch Cassidy, Judas Gray. That's for, I got Joe Hendry. That's for his school.
Yeah.
You've got Andy Wild's school. They get guys like Omar Mohammed. You know what I mean? He's took so many guys on and things like that as well. And it's like, that's going to be such a shot in the arm to Scottish wrestling as well. So if you follow this, you'll probably see the people, because they're on my podcast, they're my pals, you can talk to them, and then you will have this amazing new market of wrestling that you can watch. And the Chokeslam is my pinned tweet. The Chokeslam is my pinned tweet, so that's why you should follow this, America and other people.
Hell yes, I agree. So again, go ahead and follow him at Jason Hyde PW on all the social media. And while you're in the following and subscribing mood, I warmly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Jason, you're subscribed, right?
I'm absolutely subscribed. Actually, I've been watching all the episodes. You can also actually, if you search Jason Hyde Attempts to Socialise wherever you get your podcasts, you can find my podcasts where I have such names that were mentioned there before. Yeah. We've had some shared guests. I had Billy Strachan on. Yeah. So like that's, and there's more stuff happening there. And I say this all the time, but I'm hoping to start a Twitch with a guy called Mayhem Brooks. We're going to do some co-streams and stuff. So hopefully, like, if people join, I'm hoping to keep people entertained during COVID. Yeah. And obviously, I think if you follow anybody in the Scottish scene, you'll have so many more people to follow. That honestly, I just can't recommend it enough. I've got such a love for Scottish wrestling now, weirdly enough. So everybody deserves to have that love because it's something else.
I do too.
Exactly. Oh, and it's good as well, especially seeing like people like from like the US and stuff that know. Like, see when I seen like you messaged me and you were like, I'm a podcaster from Los Angeles, and I was like, how the hell does he know who I am? Like, how does he know who I am? And then I was like, oh, he's actually had other people, and he actually knows who I am. He's not just some guy. So like, I'm actually that's been quite a kind of push forward. That's been really motivating. Is that like because like there was a boom period in British wrestling, which a lot of it's credited to starting in Glasgow, with like the take up of ICW. So like when you're in Scottish wrestling, you genuinely feel like you're building something, and like you're a part of something that you can leave better than how you found it, I suppose. Yeah. So like that's in every aspect, like because like you see like fans who. If a promotion, for example, is doing a big show, they'll be like, I was at their first show, I was in on the ground floor. Do you know what I mean? If that's your thing, honestly, just get in amongst us. You'll love it.
You couldn't get a better recommendation. I don't think. So again, go ahead and check Jason on the social medias, the podcast. It's amazing. But again, also according to Woods. And you can literally find it According to Woods on 3 different places, right? And more to come. But if you don't believe me, you don't believe Jason, I don't know why you wouldn't. He was pro wrestler Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods YouTube.